Heidi working for Montessori International. It's a German NGO, and I'm working as a. Sorry, I think that's better now. Yeah, this is Heidi Mege, working for Montessori International as a German NGO and specialized on health projects. And I'm working for them as a program partner compliance coordinator. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hello, good morning, and Assalamu alaikum to all of you. My name is Ismat Gul Khatak. I have environmental background as well as the standards and quality background. I have been Director General of Pakistan National Accreditation Council for more than 7 years, and also DGDP SQCA, Pakistan Standards and Quality Control Authority, for a short time, 6 months, with the limited targets given to me. I love environmental because this is our future. Currently, I'm working in aerospace science and technology as Chief Advisor on accreditation. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope to contribute and learn from here.
Thank you for the invitation. I am Arishma Khan. I am member of ACC Sustainability ESG Climate Action Committee, and I come from the background of finance and working for the climate finance, climate change, and disaster risk reduction. Thank you.
Good morning and assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Myra Raza. I work as an assistant director in Akhtar Mir Khan National Center for Human Development, where I actively contribute to capacity building initiatives on the topics such as sustainable development, water sanitation and environmental concerns, and many other subjects. I'm grateful to STPI and Water Aid for having me today, and I'm looking forward to having a fruitful discussion with all of you.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. My name is Dr. Nishita Rashid, and I am working as Director General in Pakistan Council of Research in Water Resources, which is basically an organization of the Ministry of Water Resources. I am holding an experience of about 20 years in the water sector and currently leading the multidisciplinary team in the organization, and we have a big history in the water sector. And other than holding my expertise in the water quality, I am also engaged in the water conservation, water management, hydrology, groundwater assessment, management, recharge, climate resilient wash, and many other things which are directly and indirectly related to the water sector. And this topic is very close to the hearts of the PCRWR people, and I hope that we will be able to contribute effectively for aligning a sustainable financing mechanism for Pakistan. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Safar Rahman, and I am working at Live as a program development focal person. Good morning everyone. My name is Hafsa. I am working as a program development lead from Alive. Alive is an international global organization, and we changed the name. Previously it was American Refugee Community, and we changed the name in 2019. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Dr. Ghazala Khan. I'm founder of the Next Generation Leaders and working with Federation of International Gender and Human Rights as a country head, and also representing SDGs Academy on SDG 5 as a coordinator for women economic empowerment. So my focus area is gender responsiveness, gender equality, and menstrual hygiene, women mental health and well-being, and all around the world.
My name is Humaira Shaheen. I am a clinical psychologist and healthcare professional, and my expertise are in SDG 3, 4, and 8. So thank you for inviting me.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ghulam Muhyiddin. I'm heading the operation in Japaiko Corporation in Pakistan. I'm in the development sector for the last 25 years. I contributed in some famous disaster nationally, internationally, like the Haiti operation, then Jakarta flood, in Pakistan super flood, P2 flood. These are the things which motivate me to continue my journey in this. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum everyone, this is Parag Hasan. I'm working as a manager program quality and partnerships with Water in Pakistan. Looking forward to this discussion.
Good morning, everyone. I am Mohsin Chandna, DG DED, Ministry of Finance, ex-Secretary IT and Secretary IBC.
My name is Shafqat Mir. I am associated with SDPI and headed this program at SDPI in collaboration with.
Assalamualaikum. Noman Ansar, Program Coordinator, Wash, Happen Needs Now.
Greetings everyone, it's Dr. Naveed here. I currently represent as the Professor of Finance of the Bahrain University. Previously, I just completed my tenure as the Dean of the Bahrain Business School. I would say it's the right time where I have to bring financial sustainability to the discourse of the academia, social sector, and the industry. So this is the endeavor that we are setting.
Thank you very much. Good morning. This is Azmat Shaheen. I am representing here Star Network UK as a country rep as well as disaster risk financing advisor for Pakistan. So Star Network is basically a UK-based donor agency. We are providing anticipatory actions funds, national and international organization in Pakistan. So our focus is heat wave anticipatory action, flood and drought anticipatory action. So in Pakistan, we have 54 members, 22 international and 34 national organizations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum everyone. Good morning. Dr. Mohammed Pesaraj here from Pakistan Institute of Development Economics 5. I'm research fellow over there and also the member of Agriculture and Climate Change Research Group. Our core areas are including issues with agricultural markets and especially environment and climate change now, and especially our focus is not only economic water pricing to resolve the issues associated with the water crisis and other things.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Mia Naeem Saleh. I work as a research fellow at the Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad. My focus areas are non-traditional security threats and political economy of work.
Assalamualaikum, this is Engineer Ansar Ahmad. I am working with Islamic Bank Pakistan as a water resource management and water specialist.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Aftab Alam Khan and I am CEO of Resilient Future International. I had the opportunity to work in all the regions of the world, developing climate resilient people-centered solutions at grassroots level as well as connecting them with national and international policy options. Currently, I work as international consultant for national and international organization in the same field.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum ji. Sharmad Iqbal is my name, and basically I'm wearing two hats. I had one of the law firms in Pakistan which provides environmental sustainability advisory to corporates and businesses across the country, and secondly I'm associated with the International Rescue Committee as the head of strategic partnership and environmental compliances and everything. So that's the buzzword that's in the market. Thank you.
This is Hamza Beg from SDPI Ideas.
I'm Asad Ali, also at SDPI, with SDTV, and of the communications education.
I'm Ali, working as Sustainability and Resilience Program at SDPI.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Mohammed Umair and I'm Communication Officer for Water in Pakistan.
Assalamualaikum everybody, this is Vina Meher and I look after overseeing communications at WaterAid, and we're very looking forward to this conversation that we're supporting with the SDPI, and welcome on behalf of WaterAid as well.
Assalamualaikum, I am Umair. I'm working with SDPI as a graphic designer.
Assalamualaikum, I am Saim Khalil from SDPI, working as an intern.
very much. I'm Avas Umar, working as a research associate with Sustainability and Resilience Program at SBPI, and also looking after this program. Now I request Dr. Shafkat Munir Ahmed for welcome remarks. Please give a round of applause.
Thank you, Wes. Wow. मैं कहता हूँ कि इतना जबरदस्त डाइवर्स दोस्तों का इस वक्त क्राउड है और इसमें जब when I look at the policy dialogue second phase, I think now we will be certainly having very expert opinions today, which will follow in the future as well, and you know all of expert on water and particularly on wash. When we started this program with the SDPI and Water Aid, we were thinking that at least we should create a buzz around this subject, because this subject is very much a part of the development, humanitarian, and what we call the climate resilience. When it has three legs together or connected together, then the issue comes up that why this important area has been neglected. At first place, WASH could have been inclusive of the development, which has been lacking around the economy of the VC. You all experts are sitting in your areas, you also feel, and we are fellow travelers, and we know that this is happening. Now we are a step ahead when we faced 2022 flood, and earlier we had earthquake, we had 2010 floods. In 2022, what we feel a difference is that lot of people were died because of the waterborne diseases. Because the wash was really damaged, it was not in a good position to cope with the situation, but it was damaged, and because of that, because it was not resilient to these kind of shocks. So that's why we felt that. I would quote you here an example when I was posted after the cyclone Haiyan in the Philippines, in Tacloban, which was totally destroyed because of the cyclone. The basic demand from the people, because these communities are ahead of us in terms of resilience, because they face these typhoons and all these things in thousands in a year, and that was a massive tsunami they had faced. So they are more resilient than us, and they have been practicing. But what was their first demand? Two demands from the youth who were missed was that there should be a charging station so that they can connect back to their phones with the families. Second was that the wash facilities should be immediately restored. And at that time, I visited a few villages where maybe आपने भी काम किया शायद फिलिपीन में, तो बाकी दोस्त जो और भी रहे उनको पता है कि वहाँ पे यूनियन काउंसिल लेवल पे ट्रेंगाया उसको कहते हैं, सारे इंतजाम वहाँ मौजूद होते हैं, जबकि हमारा तो लोकल गवर्नमेंट नहीं है, तो वहाँ पे the toilet seats were intact, but there was no walls. तो सबसे पहले उन्होंने कहा कि आप ये टॉयलेट सीट जो इनको फंक्शनल करें. Oxfam की तरफ से मैं सोचता था, you know, Oxfam had the mandate of WASH as well. So we tried to get one, there was a company P2, so they built tents around toilets, and that was immediate demand from the people. Of course, food and other things were there. But here it is the last in our humanitarian thing. Why? Because it is the first. When it comes to the hygiene, and particularly when women are facing these problems during disaster and even during the normal time, so that should come first. Yesterday I was in a consultation meeting which was on gender-focused WASH. That was also organized by WADA and Water Aid. And the issues emerged from there were really troubling. And that's why this policy dialogue, we have focused on sustainable financing mechanism for the climate resilient WASH. Because we need some extra money. One is that for the WASH facility itself, what we call the WASH services in total, water, sanitation and hygiene. The second thing is they should be climate resilient, because now there is no normalcy in Pakistan particularly. And now the German Watch report says that Pakistan is the first country among top 10 countries which were hit in 2022 because of the extreme weathers. It's a very short kind of thing. Extreme weather we are facing here, and it will be frequent. So that's why our challenge is that we need more money for this sector particularly. And this sector is a part of a regular development sector and humanitarian sector. If some sector is, has characteristics of overlapping together, then the fund should also be coming in that way. So that's why today we have focused this workshop that for adaptation. Some of the facilities and services are there, but we need to adapt to make them to the standard of climate resilient parameters. Secondly, we have to build new facilities which are required now, and for that we need a finance. And finance is a big issue. If you look at the overall climate financing, that's a huge subject. And what message we got from COP29 is that you got the message? मतलब वो कहते हैं कि अपना आप बंदोबस्त खुद कर लें, तो ये एक मैसेज हमें मिल रहा है। और जो फॉसिल फ्यूल माफिया उनकी पे मैं उस डिबेट को उधर नहीं ले जा रहा, मैं सिर्फ यहाँ तक रखना चाह रहा हूँ कि द मनी पार्ट इज लेस, इट इज द स्ट्रेटेजिक थिंग। प्रोफेसर साहब फ्रॉम पाइड इज हियर, बड़ी अजीब बात लगती है कि वाटर प्राइसिंग की बात की जाए, बट समहाउ अभी अपनी बातचीत में भी बताएंगे कि व्हाई इट इज नीडेड। और पानी को कंजर्व करना, फिर जो वॉश की फैसिलिटीज है, अच्छा व्हाट वी डू इन आवर बजट, अभी मैं देख रहा था, बल्कि हमारा जो इससे रेलेवेंट एक्चुअली हमने ये काम किया कि 4 पॉलिसी ब्रीफ थी इस पे लिखे, ताकि इन डेप्थ आप अगर देखना चाहें हमारा आर्गुमेंट इस हवाले से, फाइनेंस में भी, प्राइवेट सेक्टर के रोल पे भी वॉश में, और इस तरह हमने नेशनल वॉश अकाउंट की बात की है, ये पेपर अवेलेबल होंगे ऑनलाइन, उसमें भी हमने आर्गुमेंट किए जा रहा है कि क्यों इसकी जरूरत है, कहाँ में नेशनल वॉश अकाउंट जो है हेल्प कर सकते हैं। तो ये कि अभी अगर आप अकाउंटिंग देखें बजट की, आपको वहां पे हेल्थ का कंपोनेंट मिल जाएगा, यू हैव सम कंपोनेंट ऑफ वाटर, ठीक है, हाइजीन एज सच इज मिसिंग, उसको कहीं ना कहीं वो क्लब करते हैं हेल्थ के साथ। हेल्थ की अपनी बहुत सारी डायमेंशन है, हमारा पॉइंट ये है कि ये एक एरिया है वाटर सैनिटेशन और हाइजीन, इसमें हमें एक पॉट ऐसा रखना चाहिए जो एड्रेस करे हाइजीन को, खास तौर पे टॉयलेट्स की फैसिलिटीज है, वाटर की और फैसिलिटीज है, क्लीन ड्रिंकिंग वाटर की फैसिलिटीज है, और हाइजीन में और सारे जो पर्टिकुलरली स्पेशल नीड्स ऑफ वुमेन एंड एल्डरली पीपल, उनका एड्रेस करने की हमें जरूरत है। तो ये अगर आप इस एंगल से देखेंगे तो फाइनेंसिंग एक बहुत बड़ा एरिया है जिसपे आज हमने पूरी डिस्कशन करनी है। तो अभी हम जब फॉर्मुलिस्ट में जाएंगे, हमारे जो डायलॉग है उसमें हम देखेंगे सारे एक्सपर्ट्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। मैं सिर्फ ये ले डाउन करना चाह रहा था आपके सामने कि ये आज के जो हमारा प्रोग्राम है। ओके सर, sorry, I have been told that I should switch to English because some people are understand English. So sorry, my apology.
It's okay.
I know you have been long in Pakistan. You know a little bit Urdu as well, and Turkish is also, you know, many words of Turkish are in Urdu. We can combine it. Thank you, Ali, for pointing it out. So I will not take much time because I just want that the discussion should take more time. I'm again express thanks all of you that you came for this dialogue, which is important for us. Your presence and your input will be certainly helping us. Over to you guys for next. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shakur, for welcome note. So I would request Mr. Ali Rahman to give you a short overview of the work which we have done in the form of policy brief that will be used as a foundation for the policy dialogue. Over to you, Ali.
Thank you, Ares. आप सबको दोबारा शामिल I will just give a short brief of the policy paper that SDBI collaboration with the Water is carried out. And the title of the paper is Sustainable Financing Mechanism for Resilient WASH. So basically this paper, it examines the critical needs for sustainable financing for WASH and also highlights some of the challenges particularly that which are evident in the aftermath of the 2022 floods. And it also emphasizes on the requirements like for a robust WASH infrastructure and practices that can withstand the climate-induced hazards in the future. So climate resilient WASH, if we talk about the climate resilient WASH, it means that it is the approach, the processes that ensures continuous functionality of the systems that can remain operational during the extreme weather events such as floods, droughts, or heat waves. So it also encompasses the quality of adaptation to environmental changes, like the infrastructure and practices that are capable withstanding the long-term climate variability, and also sustainable water and resource management, resilient sanitation, and climate-smart hygiene interventions. And it also has one quality that it has the, it can be, like it has the importance of rapid restoration recovery once gone through any disaster. So it has the quality to be restored within a short span of time. So now we have some financing sources for WASH here in Pakistan, where the WASH initiatives that come from various sources, including from the government budget allocations, which are made at the federal as well as the provincial levels. Then we have some international development agencies who fund for WASH. Then we have some NGOs who contribute to WASH, and then private sector through the finance for WASH through their CSR and public-private partnerships. So if we look at the government budget allocations, so we have budget from at the federal as well as at the provincial levels. So if we look at the budget allocations from 2021 to 22, Government of Pakistan has allocated 22.5 billion rupees for WASH services. So this is almost 25% increase from 2021 budget allocations. And in 2022, these expenditures, they surged by 253%, and 86% of these funds were utilized. So it shows that the efficiency of utilization of these funds have been improved. So in 2023, federal allocations was increased to 265 billion. This was because of the environmental challenges because of the floods 2022. So 2018, from 2018 to 2023, Pakistan WASH budget allocations increased by 152%. So these increases were basically influenced by the Clean Green Pakistan program that was launched in 2018. Then we have some international development assistance, where in 2021 and 22, the international donors contributed to 37.5 billion rupees for WASH in Pakistan. So if we look at the provincial levels, Sindh received the highest provincial share of 38.3%, which is followed by Punjab 25%, KPK 21%, Balochistan 16.4%. So this also reflects the disparities among the provincial budget allocations. So now, despite of all these improvements, the financial allocations for WASH, there remains a lot of challenges as well to achieve the SDG 6. So we also require a significant investment to address all these waterborne and wash-related issues. So in recent years, efforts have been made, like 59% of climate-related funds were secured by CSOs, and 22% of these funds were allocated for WASH programs. Now, there are some challenges that we are facing in the WASH sector in Pakistan, and the foremost is climate change that we also experienced during the 2022 floods. So, if we look at the overall adaptation requirement of Pakistan, it is 7 to 14 billion USD. And for WASH and for our infrastructure. Then we have the issue of sustainable financing mechanisms in Pakistan, because we have lack of dedicated budgets for WASH, right? And it is not also reflected in our PSDPs. And then we heavily rely on the donor fundings, so which is not sustainable, because projects are designed for short terms. And then we don't have any longer term solution or any longer term project for the sustainability of WASH infrastructure or WASH related facilities in Pakistan. Then we have financial management and resource utilization issues. We have the inefficient financial management, funds are mislocated. Then there is a weak accountability in our system. And then the subsidies are poorly targeted, which is also one of the major issues. So, and the another issue is that we have not integrated WASH in our climate resilience and in our climate related policies. Then we have weak monitoring and accountability mechanisms, and which undermine the long-term WASH plannings. So these are some of the potential fundings where we can capitalize on these. We have global funds, we have regional funds, and bilateral funds. So these are the opportunities where we can put proposals or where we can ask for finances for WASH. So in the policy brief, we have given some way forwards which talks about the strengthening the financial management and accountability. So to ensure this, we proposed to establish a national WASH account for Pakistan. And in the, previously we had launched a policy paper on this topic, and we had also our stakeholders from Department of Statistics, and we had a consultation meeting with them. And we also proposed to integrate WASH into PSDPs and annual development plans. Then we also recommend to leverage on climate finance for WASH by strengthening national capacity to address the global funds. And we also advocate to develop technical sound proposals and establish national climate WASH funds to pool domestic and international resources for this WASH initiatives. And we also advocate for strengthening public-private partnership for WASH, where the private sector can contribute for WASH financing. And we also give a recommendation in the paper that to build the institutional capacity and strengthen the research for climate WASH. And also there is a need for social inclusion and strengthening the community engagement in WASH-related initiatives. And then lastly, to adopt the nature resolutions by investing in wetlands restoration, watershed management, and green infrastructure. So this was from my side that we have put some of these points in our policy brief. Now I will hand over to Dr. Shaukat Munir for the further discussion on the issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. With one point of clarification or explanation further, Ali has mentioned that there are some sort of improvement in the funding, which is good and positive step. But if you look at this improvement is not overall, that actually the services are at that level. But it was on the baseline of the previous years where there was nothing. But then over the year it is gradually improved to under 50% or something like that. That is not sufficient. That is based on the previous data, and that this one. The new thing is that we need finance, we need more facilities which are climate resilient. So with this note, I would like to thank you once again, that now we will be in the dialogue mode. And before I come to the floor, I would request Hassan Mushtaq sir to share his thoughts, because he has this presentation and also the expertise around it. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shankar sir. To begin with, I saw these discussion points, the recommendations of Rajeev Ahmed sir. Ideally, are very good, in ideal circumstances. But we have to see certain practical things. To begin with, my question is this WASH a federal subject or a provincial subject? This is not a federal subject, right? This is a provincial subject. If I ask you which agency, is ministry or attached department of the ministry is looking after it, so you will be scratching your head, because probably you will think that Ministry of Climate Change, yes, partly, but then it should be some sort of a department which should be dealing with public health engineering, right? Or local government. And these two departments do not exist at the provincial level. So, and you are talking about sustainable development. This is the thing is, you are talking about sustainable development. So the biggest stakeholder in this whole concept of WASH are provinces and the local government. Unfortunately, both are not here. Not even the Islamabad Municipal Corporation or something, or mayor's office or somebody, right? So this was a striking thing for me. We are, and I don't see anybody from Ministry of Climate Change. In fact, I had a very detailed discussion on this topic. In the last 2 days, I had 2 sessions with Additional Secretary Zulfikar Yunus, and he thought that the event had been postponed. I said, no, the event is there. But there is nobody here from Ministry of Climate Change. So we are second biggest stakeholder is, to my mind, Ministry of Planning Development and Special Initiative. They are the ones who have to allocate. Now there is a very serious issue. The serious issue is that the federal government is going to realign the provincial, the public sector development program by abandoning or reducing the allocations for province-specific schemes. And now if we just think about it loudly or do some introspective thinking, I think the first, the most ideal project to be hit for the planning, Ministry of Planning would be like WASH, right? Because they are 100% province specific. So these are the practical sides. I have discussed these things with, as I said, the Ministry of Climate Change. Ministry of Climate Change, besides this event, have been trying for the last 2-3 months for introduction of climate resilient, climate change bond. And why they have not been able to do it is because of sustainability. They don't have a business plan. When you issue a bond, because I am DG debt, so everybody comes to me, the NAFTAC also came to us with Pakistan's Skill Impact Bond of 1 billion rupees only. And idea is good, everything is right. They have given the examples of India and other countries. The fact of the matter is, that is a provincial subject. They don't have a mechanism to repay. See, when you talk about sustainability, you people are more technical. Like I am a clerk, bureaucrat, so I should be, you are the one who knows it better. What is the issue of resilience, sustainability? Okay, so that's the problem. So with these caveats, let's come back to the point. To my mind, to begin with sustainable development, what is the problem? The problem is we are pursuing growth at the cost of environmental damage. I'm sure every one of you must have heard about or read about environmental Kuznets curve. There is no one city in the world, I would say, which has eluded or escaped that path. Right? So every city has initially pursued growth at the expense of environmental damage. I'll give you 2 examples. In 1999, I was on an environmental sustainable development course in Japan for 2.5 months, and we went to Osaka. There was one area which is called Nishi Yodogawa. 99 October, they showed us the level of sulfur in the air in 1968, the peak era of Japan. If you know the peak era of Japan, Japanese growth was between 1960 and 1970. The picture was of 1968, this thick sulfur layer. And 1999, when we were standing in the same area, it was beautiful. It was like it was lava today. So they said, first we sacrificed our environment for growth, and then we restored it. The same thing happened in Tokyo. When we went there, there was one place which was Ebisu. Their biggest beer factory was in Tokyo City. And again at the expense of environmental damage. And then they moved all the factories out. And that place, Ebisu Garden Place right now, is one of the most expensive places to live in Tokyo. Alright, so we have to understand it. Whenever I talk about environmental food curve, I think about smog, and every year smog in November, December, and January in Lahore. Okay, so what did we do? We are doing again the same thing. Every even you take all the 4 big cities of India, Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore, Hyderabad. So you see the same thing, same phenomenon. Right. When I was discussing with in Ministry of Climate Change Additional Secretary Zulfikar Yunus, we talked about a new SDG development framework. I agree with that. And also revision of drinking water supply and sanitation policy for alignment with SDGs. But at the same time, this has to be done by we at the Ministry of Finance or SDPI at Islamabad, we can only recommend the deliverable of this workshop or of this project. It should be owned by the provinces. So then it will be successful. But if we prepare a document and that document is not accepted by the provinces, then we are failed. We have failed. I was discussing about institutionalized water quality and water sewerage treatment. I recalled 1996, I was administrator district council Faisalabad, and I also had an additional charge of administrator municipal corporation Faisalabad. So I saw a very interesting phenomenon. If somebody of you have seen this Sargodha Road in Faisalabad, which connects Chinnor to Faisalabad. I had been a Chinnor also before, and then I was administrator. So I had seen that area. So what happened was that there was this road which was also always broken. So what happened? Why would the road be broken? Because of no sewerage, and every time there would be water, it would come on the road. So it will come on the road, so it will damage. So what the corporation did every time was it raised the level of the road. And what did the people do? Living on both, or the shops on both sides of the road, they would raise the level of the shop. So what happened eventually was that in 1996, I said 97, I saw that the shop, because they could only raise the floor, but not the ceiling. So the size of the shop was not even good enough for a person to stand. So eventually, the corporation and the area, they decided that this is not workable. And there has to be a sustainable solution. The sustainable solution was that the corporation dug up drains on both sides of the road so that there was a permanent solution of water. And at the same time, the shopkeepers were told that they should reconstruct their shops and increase the shops level wherever possible. Because somewhere it was not possible where there were people living on the first floor. Alright, so I recalled that. Then the issue of community awareness and mobilization. A very interesting topic. Wash cannot be done without community awareness and mobilization. This is my firm belief. I'll give you an example. When I was director of local government in Faisalabad, I experience and also in Jhang, when I was administrator municipal committee Jhang. So I'm telling you from things from my first hand experience, what I saw. So there used to be water supply schemes, which these municipal committees or these village councils, we would construct under MPA grant or MNA grant. And then we had to hand over these committees to these water supply schemes to the village councils to run. And they would not do it. They would not do it. Why they would not do it? Because they didn't have they couldn't take the responsibility, they couldn't pay the bills, and there was no community involvement. Right? So as a result, most of the schemes would be abandoned. Now the biggest example in the last, I would say, decade is RO plants in Sindh. If you see the reverse osmosis plants, which the government has spent over 10 billion rupees on that. So what has happened? 90% of the plants are shut down. Because when the villagers in central Punjab who are most educated, and I would say most well off, even they can't take the responsibility of running a basic rudimentary village electrification or village water supply scheme. How could you expect people of interior and poor areas started from to run a reverse osmosis plant? So it is not possible. Alright? So this is one thing. Very important. Then elephant in the room, who will fund it? The provincial government or the federal government? Now, as Shafqat Saab said, you started with a very low level. Luckily, there were floods. Because of the flood, the resources increased, resource allocation increased. But as I see, it will be going down very soon. So what is the way forward? Where is the sustainability? Okay. So I think the people with money, they should come forward. I'll give you an example. Imagine how much is the federal debt right now. Okay, I'll just give you the number of interest expense. And all of you, since you are from the development sector, so I can challenge, nobody can give me that number. So can somebody give me the number this year for interest expense? Not the debt. Interest expense. How much is my interest expense this year? Was it? 700 billion. Okay, anybody else? Okay, 700 billion is gross understatement. Gross. I will kiss you if it is 700 billion. I'll kiss you if it is 7,000 billion. How much? Imagine how much? 7,000 billion interest expense. My interest expense this year was budgeted 9,750 billion rupees, 9.75 trillion. Okay? This is interest expense, not debt. Okay? Because of the decline in interest rate, it will go down by June to about 8.7 trillion. 8,700 billion. And you were saying 700 billion. Imagine, it is so big. What about provinces? What about provinces? The provinces in the last 5 years, all four provinces combined are posting a surplus budget. Surplus budget, which means they don't have any interest. They don't have any interest to pay. You see what's happening. So where is the money? The money is with the provinces, and we are doing this workshop here. The best thing is we should engage the provinces. They have the money. Okay, they will have to fund it. And it is a provincial subject. This is not a federal subject also. Okay. Last 2 points. Ali Rahman Saab proposals are good. There are some proposals, one point which was very striking. So I thought this is the last point. Whenever you make a recommendation, at least see its practicability. So I saw this concept of wash account, federal wash account. Who will run it? Who will maintain it? Okay? Can you do it? It is a non-starter, no-brainer, nobody can do it. Okay? So please, when you discuss these issues today, at least see how real and practical they are. Okay, thank you very much and we'll continue. Apologies if I am saying something too weird.
Thank you, sir. Very alarming. सिर्फ थोड़ा सा बता दूं कि नेशनल वाश अकाउंट is a full mechanism in it. Who will run it? Who will be part of it? How provinces will be part of it? Where is the national role? National role is only for Islamabad and provinces has the full role. Similarly, we have.
Elaborate. Who will run it? Who will maintain it?
There is a full committee on it because the paper talks about the whole structure of it. So he had just mentioned it. That was the first.
Who will run? Who will be the administrative?
The lead ministry will be Ministry of Climate Change with all the provinces. They were last time here when it was launched.
Okay.
When the national paper was launched on national account, the ministry was here. But today is on other side. The reference is because we have done it as a part of the 4 series of the paper. So anyway, that has a mechanism. In the first meeting, it was elaborated, but that can be circulated also. Now I would request Aapko.
Yeah, I want to add about the national water program. Again, I don't know whether participants are aware of national health account. National health accounts have been and they are housed in Bureau of Statistics. So in MOCC, same in the case of water accounts, we are engaged with the National Bureau of Statistics, and then they will be housed over here. Thank you. Thank you.
So the floor is open now, starting from. I think it's on that. This side.
Thank you very much. I will endorse all the discussion points which Mr. Muhsin Ishaq have just shared with us, but just to add some more challenges and how those challenges can be addressed sustainably. And the most important thing, as this workshop is also focused on the climate financing, so how we can generate the resources. We all know very well, but there are something more to reflect on this. First of all, I talk about the water supply in the country. Though the National Water Policy, it is a premier document which was approved in 2018, and other aligned policies like the climate change policy, agriculture, our national agriculture and food security policy, and previously the environmental policy, these all have some parts of the water supply and are all common. But the most important thing is that all the policies and the legal instruments like the Water Acts, they focus on our requirements. They are less focused on the resources which are required to meet these requirements. So we all are aware that in the developing countries and most of the developed world, they have the concept of the service delivery in terms of the pricing as well as for for the continuous supply in terms of the quality and the quantity. Like in UK, in Canada, they all have the water supply which are priced and which are rationally priced. I want to share here the model which Australia has actually started with. They started with the free allowance as per the human rights requirements. For example, the WHO says that per day per person requirement is 55 liters for all the domestic needs. So they kept their allowance as free, and then they started the water metering. And with the uniform water metering across the country, then they set up the rationalized pricing and the tariffs. For example, there were certain marginalized groups which were not able to afford that, tariffs. So they set up the tariffs according to the human rights allowance as free for them, and then with the different income groups and with the industry which are more commercial, they set up the high and the very rationalized tariffs after conducting the proper water pricing research. So PCRW have also undertaken research on the water pricing, focusing on a model which is basically working at a very small level in the district Melwal. And there are water supply scheme which is relying on 3 or 4 wells. for about 2,100 households, and they are pricing based on the volumetric consumption. Parallel to these, there is a government-owned water supply system which is being run by the Tehsil Municipal Administration. So we have assessed both of these, type of the tariffs, have one having the flat, another having a properly based on the volumetric consumption. The one which was based on the proper volumetric consumption, they showed a sustainability of 87%. They were able to recover the cost of up to the 87%, whereas the TMA based on the flat tariffs, they are just recovering 13%. It means they have to invest from the government resources. Then the water wastage is very high on the TMA side, and it was very lower on the other side. Customer satisfaction, continuity of the supply, and the water quality, and the other factors were also high. So I want to say that for the climate resilient water supply, the water pricing is a very, very important chapter, not only for the domestic water supply, but for the industries and for the agriculture as well. Agriculture is also very important because it is the main water user, and it actually, it is almost in the laws with respect to the service delivery models and the water pricing. So the wastewater, which is also very much close to the water supply problems, our research has shown in 2022 that only 39% of the population is actually having access to the safe water. And the major issue was microbial contamination up to the level of 43%, and there were other problems as well. This 43% of the microbial contamination is not difficult to control because these are related to the two major factors. One is the intermediate water supply, and the second one is the wastewater without any treatment, openly flowing, disposed of into the surface water bodies, and then the surface water and our groundwater systems are directly connected. The sewage pipelines and the water supply pipelines are close, they are very close to each other. So during the intermittent water supply, the water supply pipes actually draw the contamination. So until unless we have the cost recovery model and we invest on the wastewater treatment, and then we invest on the water supply, the quality of the water supply. Water supply currently in Pakistan, all the systems, either these are the public systems or the community, these are running without water audits. No water audits, no water pricing, no cost recovery models, no business models. So from where the funding would come? The funding would come from the government resources. For the government, our research has made us to realize that the government should only be the regulatory body or the owner of the water resources. It should not be a service delivery entity. It should only monitor, it should only be regularizing the processes and the systems. So it has to be a public-private partnership, which is not existing in the country. And I will also give an example of our I-9 wastewater treatment system, which have been developed somewhere in 1960 by the Capital Development Authority in collaboration with the French agency and the French funding. That system, which is developed on the 40 acres, it had to treat the wastewater of 46 residential sectors and all the industries. It had to generate the energy, it had to generate the biogas, and it has to produce the farmyard manure, and it has to do everything which we can, exploit or utilize the potential of the wastewater. Unfortunately, those all the objective was met that the wastewater treatment system is existing, but the target was met, but the objectives have not been met. And currently, if you go there, it is only a simple, very low quality primary treatment. There is no secondary treatment, and there is no tertiary treatment. So when we go there, when we talk to CDA, they say that they don't have funds, they don't have manpower. So why this system, such a huge centralized system, is existing if they do not have the resources? They should launch the public-private partnership and to run that wastewater treatment system on the industrial basis. And globally, now the central treatment systems are there, but they are more focused, like in Japan, even in US, they are more focused on the decentralized approach. The decentralized, like for example, every sector of Islamabad should have its own decentralized, small-scale wastewater treatment system. It will not put a more burden on the centralized treatment system. And if we talk about the WASH, wastewater has a big value. It is a resource. But unfortunately, we have not recognized the wastewater as a resource so far in the country. And farmers are using that without any, treatment. And there are so many implications that can be recognized as a resource and that can help us to overcome the water scarcity. I want to give you an example of Karachi. The current need is about 1,200 million gallons per day, and but the current supply is about, I think, 450 million gallons, up to 500 million gallons per day. And 60% of the water which the human body consumes, it is converted into the wastewater. And all of the wastewater which is being produced in Karachi, the 87% of that is being dumped into the Arabian Sea without any treatment. That wastewater, if properly treated, it can be utilized by the 6,000 units of industries in the Karachi, and which are utilizing, the potable water. And the industry should not use the potable water for the wet processes. And all of the waste which is being going to the Arabian Sea, it has no utilization. It is deteriorating our biodiversity, and then the desalination, this is a requirement in the coastal belt, in the Balochistan and in Sindh province, but unfortunately just few of the models we have established and they are now abandoned. And again, the issue is the resources required to run all those models. Either those were reverse osmosis system, those were desalination, those were wastewater. Then we talk about the water acts and the legal systems we have. We have policies, we have acts, but again, those are not resource oriented. Those are mostly the requirements oriented. Until unless we have the public-private partnership systems, unless we have the community engagement system, community should not only should take the ownership, but they should also contribute financially. Here I want to give examples of some of the models PCRWR has set up in the provinces. For example, in Karachi, in Malir and some other slum areas, we have established the models in collaboration with the WaterAid. And the system's capacity were about 70,000 gallons per day, and those are working very well. Communities are paying 0.8 rupees per gallon of the water, and monthly that whole revenue which is collected is used for the sustainable operation and the maintenance of all these systems. We have also worked on the WASH in hospitals and the WASH in the school and universities. All over 24 offices across the country have adopted 2 schools per office, and those schools have been tried to convert into the model schools with perspective of the WASH improvement, like safe water, clean hygiene, clean environment, hygiene, and best behavior. So we adopted with our own resources, we improved those schools, we educated and created awareness among the students, among the academic staff and the non-academic staff. And in Islamabad, we have 11 schools, and those are improved with respect to the rainwater harvesting, hygiene, hand washing facilities, drinking water, and clean green behavior. So I think the Ministry of Education has a very, very important role, and they have their budget, but unfortunately, despite of all of our efforts, they could not be on board because this is not their priority. So setting the priorities is also very, very important. Similarly, we work in the hospitals to assess the WASH and to help them to improve the WASH. And I will not talk about what is going on in the hospitals, but what the hospital is contributing to the environment. All the waste going into the water bodies or inside the land is without treatment. And the hospital waste is a worrisome, disposed of material for the whole country, because it has every type of the viruses and protozoans and bacteria which can cause the other types of the health implication. So then I will talk about the buildings, the commercial buildings, restaurants and all the buildings standing across the country, and we are now with the rapid urbanization developing the high tower buildings and high rising buildings. PCRWR has modeled its own building as a water smart building, implementing and redefining the concept of the zero liquid discharge. And that is basically focused that whatever inflows we receive, no inflows should go out of any building. And if any inflows go out, that should be well treated without putting more burden on the environment. We have ground rainwater rooftop harvesting systems, groundwater recharge system, which is well filtered water is going inside of the boreholes and into the ground. And then we have a wastewater treatment system based on the bioremediation. All the treated water is used for the green band, for the non-potable purpose, for the carbon, and no toxic or polluted water is going out. So if all the industries, all the buildings, they cut down their dependence on the potable water and utilize such kind of the system, in future when our tariffs will be well set, they will be able to address not only the economic implication, but also the water scarcity. So our research and academia is very, very important. Like PCRWR, academia is also undertaking several research. So we need to develop the processes which can be sustainable, which can produce resources like carbon credits and such as you mentioned about the health account and the climate change account. I know the academia is undertaking a big role, and their research is producing a lot of processes, but unfortunately our industry is not involved in the WASH processes. As a result of that, if some university student or the supervisor, they are developing the material for the arsenic treatment, for the microbial treatment or the other treatments, that just be a publication, they are not able to produce at the bulk level or the mass production. So industrial involvement in bringing as a, the market availability of all the processes and the material is very, very important. And then I will also talk about the role of the Ministry of Climate Change, which is, although they are focused on many things, but the institutional support with them is deficient. And for example, WASH, water quality surveillance, and all these things are provincial subjects, they are coordinating. There is no national level surveillance agency which can take a lead on the water quality and the WASH. Here from this forum, I also want to request that you kindly include in your recommendation that PCRWR has a big role. It has produced it's a pioneer organization which has produced all the data across the country on the water quality, on the groundwater levels, and many other things. And we have 24 hours. We have built the capacity of the public health engineering departments and the VASAs in terms of the water quality assessment and management, and we can take the lead on this role for acting as the national level surveillance body for undertaking independent and a third party monitoring. My last point is also very, very important, and that is that the national water policy, it should be as an independent policy. All the policies have the WASH chapters, but those chapters are not well addressed and no one has taken the ownership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam, for telling us about what is already happening. Actually, these two presentations are very important because from the finance side and from the PCRW, basically, what we think is that resources. So we raise resources are with the provinces, role of private sector. That's why the 4 series of these papers, one is especially on the private sector role, on water treatment, all that. We have done similar kind of exercise in Karachi with them, that how they can waste your water so that it should not go waste and it should not pollute the water bodies. I think these are all very connected issues. So if we as a nation, provinces give money and your research and your modeling, which you have done in terms of industry, in terms of building schools, they should be replicated. If there is a model, this should be replicated, and replication is that money is needed, and money is with the provinces, we know. So we should take these forward two messages, money with provinces, modeling is there, we have to move forward for scaling up. First up, then we will cover this.
So I would like to say that we need to move beyond these theoretical discussions, and we we need to highlight the practical scalable solutions. So I would like to quote one example here, that we have a structure that is in the outskirts of Islamabad. It was designed by it is globally recognized and designed by the late Zaha Hadid, and which is a school, and it is a very low cost, life-saving and climate friendly, which can be located from one place to another, and it is a very beautiful school. And thirdly, I would like to say that we need to invite provincial federal governments to showcase these models so we can replicate those models in the other regions. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I have a question. First of all, maybe first at the start, I would like to say that as working for an INGO, I believe that in this triangle, INGOs and NGOs has a very important role. If we think about this triangle and each corner is representing INGOs, NGOs, public sector and the private sector, I would say that the role and responsibility of the INGOs is both diversifying the funds and as well as giving awareness raising. Because the main issue, I can say that the country that I come from is utilizing the funds through public sector, because many of the international organizations, they are reluctant to give direct funds to the government organizations. So mostly they are using either the INGOs to divert this funds. So I believe that this strong triangle between these three sectors is going to create more sustainable solutions. One thing I can say that I'm also a survivor of an earthquake in Turkey. So the main gap was the awareness situation, because in the first days of the earthquake there was a very much problem of the water sources, and many of the people who has lost their life from the earthquake, but they have been poisoned from the water sources, because there was no in the first days, because of the emergency, there was no a lot of information raising about the water cleaning. So that was something that to raise the awareness of the community is something first, which as Malteser International we are working very closely in Sint Sakarya mentioned, where the main of the funds are going for the wash facilities to raise this awareness and create an ownership of the local community. So this is main of the things as Malteser that we are doing. So when we are building water pump, it's being built by the community themselves. So we are just being a bridge role. The funds are coming to our organization. We are giving it to our local organization, and the community themselves are creating this water pumps or construction of latrine blocks. And at the same time, our organization is giving information and education and motivation to use those blocks who are disabled friendly, and at the same time who are like very gender friendly. This is one thing. Second thing, when I was doing my homework and doing this research, I find a word which green bonds for the private sector. So I searched for it and I see that it's being done in Pakistan for motivating the private sector to fund on it. But one thing I couldn't find in my research, and that's my question. So when the government is giving this green bond for, maybe I can explain, because I just learned, maybe the people who doesn't know, green bonds are mostly a fund, which are promoting like renewable energy projects for the private sector. This is what I learned this morning, actually. So, but one thing as I couldn't figure out, are they also giving tax exemption to the organizations, to the private sector? If it is the case, then it's really a good example. So I would like to suggest maybe it can be added also in this policy to motivate, which is being done, a blueprint or copy paste of this, this initiative. A lot of things are here, but I would like to give the floor to other experts.
Can you give to us, Madam, we have much talked about water.
Yeah.
I want your perspective on the hygiene side. Then I'll come to Dr. Ghazala for a gender perspective, and I'll move from Sarmat onward to colleagues here.
Actually, I had different points. I want to, some of the points have already been addressed, like attendance of the stakeholders, relevant stakeholders, and whether it's a national or provincial issue or a local body issue. The other point that I had actually was, have we studied different case studies from around the world? How are other countries dealing with it? We don't need to reinvent the wheel, we can just copy paste. Some of the points raised by this lady from PCRWR are very relevant as they are doing it. So why can't the others follow them? Why can't every ministry have for its own building this particular requirement? So these are small things that we can copy and paste. We don't really need more things. Another is because if instead of having big projects, expecting PSDP to give a lot of funds, maybe they don't have any money. So why can't we have like small micro financing for these community-based organizations or community-based people? And we can have success stories in different parts of the world. We can have success stories from the mountains, from the plains, from the deserts, and then showcase them in one particular place, that this is how it worked in the mountains, this is how it worked in this province and that province and in the deserts. So if we gather all these success stories, I'm sure these success stories can bring in funding from the international funding agencies as well. This is from my point. I was actually, it's very, and definitely not just the funds. The last point that I had was accountability and transparency on the funds. So there should be a mechanism to have a strong check on the, and also we are talking a lot about the public-private partnership. We are ignoring philanthropic because our Pakistanis, we do donate funds. So there would be some people who would want to donate for their own regions. There are many expats living in other countries. They are coming from certain villages. Maybe they would want to finance some projects for their own villages. So we could have some, public, private plus our own funding. So that would also be one of the aspects. Thank you.
Dr. Ghazala, I'll come with the second round then. First round and then I'll issue second.
Thank you so much. It was really interesting talk, and these are general issues. What I would like to add from the perspective of the gender, that according to the statistics, there are 250 million children who are out of school because of these climate changes, disasters and floods. So 80% of girls drop out due to menstrual hygiene problems and issues, because they couldn't get that facilities in the schools or because of shaming or something. So they left the school because of these issues. And I think the menstrual hygiene management system could be adopted by the schools, and at the local level or private or government sector. And 44% of lack of access to the basic hygiene is noted. Moreover, 20.6% absence due to
these menstrual issues among the girls, because at the teenage, that this is the perspective, people don't want to address this, even the teachers, even the schools, and there are mixed schools, boys and girls, so there is more need to address these points. Along with that, displaced health issues are, has been noted that 650,000 pregnant women couldn't get health access and they lost their lives, or some other hygiene issues can be raised or are maybe raised. So what I would like to suggest, there is one term called the pink tax. So in the range of hygiene sanitary products for women, which is glamorized, and they charge more about that. So I would like to raise that the government should exempt the tax and also provide the alternate on the local level, like reusable hygiene pads, or I think they should fund or motivate those cottage industry, the women-led industry, who can make locally reusable pads for girls and also can provide it with the vending machines into the schools. Just like they provide the water or medicines and everything. So the vending machines for the hygiene products, I would suggest that one. Another thing is carbon credits. So the organization who are contributing toward the climate change and are the part of that can contribute in the terms of the carbon credits, like if they are providing 20 or 50% into the emission of the carbon, they should compensate it with the money in terms of corporate social responsibility. So what they can do, they can fund that gender responsiveness for in terms of providing funds for these projects which I mentioned, just like the green bonds. So I think that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. If you permission, I finish from here, or should I take this? Because I have already. So, आप ही बात कर रहे हैं, मौका देना है.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to add one thing, that as we can know all the perspective on how the government is taking priority about this project. I just want to share that as we all are here, we should work on private and government collaboration on a priority basis. So that we should have some document that where the strategies should be aligned, that how we will collaborate, and each and every activities or the plans that we are going to adopt, that should be cost effective and it should be energy effective. So I think this should also be incorporated on at the forum on this agenda, that how we should incorporate and what strategies and plans we should adopt. Thank
you. Anybody from here? Then I will.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to add a point that I work with the hospitality industry, which is a leading industry in the country. So I observed as a first-hand experience that the hospitality industry and other textile industries, they add so many things into the water, starting from detergents, soaps, and whatnot. And they are not being held accountable for what they add to the water stream. So my recommendation is that we can make CSR policy mandatory, although it is being given by SLPP, but it is not mandatory yet. So I believe that we can make it mandatory, like we have it in India, and in that we can include wash as a mandatory aspect of it, that the companies should invest in wash and pay back, because the polluter pays. So they should be responsible and held accountable for what they are adding to the water stream. So that's my other suggestion.
I think that's a valid.
Thank you, Dr. Sir. The focus of the workshop is on access to climate finance as well. So my suggestion would be that what if we look for the projects or investment which create return on investment? If we look into the shift of the business model and generate our own income source. So I think it will be, because we have seen what has happened in the during the COP29, and as you mentioned, the results, like we have to look into the more possibilities and options. So for the climate finance and to widen the scope, we should look into a transformation of the business models and look into the options for return on investment. Secondly, I would like to say that WASH is currently a burning issue. And even the infrastructure projects, they are working on the WASH facilities in Sindh and Balochistan and Punjab as well. Specifically, those projects are infrastructure projects which have been working on post 2022, any infrastructure capacity building or anything else. So why not to look into the options of creating carbon credits through WASH facilities or something like that. It will be because carbon market again, it is a burning issue and we have something talk of the town these days in Pakistan. And so why not to look into the options and project proposals which create carbon credits. These two options will create climate financing for Pakistan. And this is something new, and we should change our mindset and think into new options as well. That's all from my point of view. Thank you.
Online पे है ना, they can say. It's live on other 3 channels, SGPI, SGTV, other Twitter and other. Yeah. So and maybe other people are also listening.
Yes, thank you very much. So as the discourse continues, we definitely will have a lot of fruitful conversation. But so far, if I look at this whole sector of WASH, with regards to compliances, with regards to projects, with regards to funding, with regards to research, evidences that have come out, I term it as a sporadic eruption of actions based on need. So I think if you look at it in a trajectorized manner, what evidence do we have at hand which promotes a sustainable mechanism? But building on what were the disconnects, lessons learned from previous things that we did. And when I look at that evidence, that is also sporadic. That is also spread all across. So we don't have a consolidated body of knowledge which would actually help us delve deeper into conversations for modeling. The second thing is the policy arena. Pakistan is known as the graveyard of policies. We have loads and loads of policies shelved. How have we been learning from it? And as Mohsin Saab rightly pointed out, 68 and 97, 60s and 90s, 70s and 2000, change China. There was a benchmark somewhere and then they could showcase the change. We have those benchmarks available for us. I think this is where academicians, this is where think tanks like SGPI can play a proactive role in terms of bringing that body of knowledge together. Now, when it comes to governance mechanisms, we've been speaking a lot about ye hai, ye nahi hai, ye department hai, who's going to be the owner of it, who's going to do that. I think governance mechanism has also been, as we move along, we decide who should be owning that function. We don't think big, we don't think 5 years or 10 years or 20 years down the line. We might be thinking about it, thinking on those lines while we develop a policy, while we develop an act, and which itself has very varied explanations and connotations to attach to it. So the governance mechanism or the policy arena, these two go hand in hand. But are the policies being made in line with what the technocrats have to offer within that policy development arena or not? That's another question or a discourse that we could take. The third thing is legal cover, punitive action. Have we spelled it out somewhere? हमारे पास तो सन 1900 के जो है ना कवानीन चल रहे हैं सर, ₹5 टैक्स है पानी जाया करने, ₹5 पेनल्टी है पानी जाया करने पे। आप इधर 50 गैलन जाया कर लें, गाड़ी धो लें, 10 गाड़ियां धो लें, आपको
Apologies, AC साहब आएंगे वो जो है ना आपको फाइन करके चले जाएंगे अब आगे के 5,000 तक पहुंची ये चीज लेकिन दैट टू was 5,000 आपके curative actions ground को contaminate करने के क्या हैं to have those been spelled out I don't know that's something that serious conversation needs to happen on those lines now one good thing or one room for further conversations and delving deep into this conversation about finance. हम कहते हैं ना कि financial mechanics are at play, या financial wizards bring in new models. We could be financial wizards as well when with regards to may it be green bonds, may it be blue bonds, may it be debt repayment clubbed with certain achievement of SDGs. So committing something of a model that this is the certain amount of debt which we have to repay and then, okay, out of this amount of debt, 5%, 10% would be allocated for certain sectors for their revitalization. That's another mechanism, another discourse that is taking place at various levels. I'm not sure about Pakistan because Mohsin Saab has rightly pointed out, we don't have access to that information or access to that discourse, I would say. Now, fifth thing, we've been talking a lot about public-private partnerships. Yes, there are avenues to build upon, and yes, there are organizations or partners ready to support. But can we give them an environment where they operate freely? Can we give them an environment where they have confidence to invest and lead on it, where they have the opportunity to bring in innovative technologies to the country? So there are checks and balances or barriers, I would say, or impediments in bringing everything here to Pakistan. So that's another discourse that needs to happen. So coming up with a suitable financial mechanism, it has lists and lists of positive sides, but lists and lists of, or more than the positive, there are more barriers to actually bringing in models for sustainable financing. Now, when it comes to CSR, I think we misunderstand the concept of CSR. If an entity is polluting groundwater, it is responsible for cleaning its mess as well. And therefore, NEQS or National Environmental Quality Standards are there. The implementation, lack of implementation is allowing them that cushion, and then they can whitewash by putting in 8 lakh rupees of CSR or 100,000 rupees of CSR by showcasing, yes, this is the water filtration plant that we built. So what? You contaminated the water. Have you checked the extraction of that water? Is the pH level of that water allowable for drinking purposes? Or what's the long-term repercussion? So we actually mix CSR with our responsibility. So CSR is something different and our responsibility is something different. So within the sustainable mechanism, yes, CSR funds could be brought in, but that too under the overall strategic ambitions for this sector. Not the organization, but the sector. But when you go talk to the corporate, the big corporates, their CSR strategy spells out many different things, but it doesn't talk about financing such models which could be very big, huge. They would finance models which are being implemented by them or their foundations or their entities in certain areas where they have interest. So how do we address that? So there are many things that we need to actually talk about, leave that discourse and bring them to the table for this conversation.
Thank you, Sarma Sahab. I think you have very rightly pointed out CSR because now things are moving ahead. CSR was a very short thing at that level, very beginning and initial thing. Now there is ESG, environmental, social, and governance framework. So I think that's the mandatory. Globally, it's acceptable. There's given guidelines for private sector to accept these things. So these frameworks, they need it, and that's why now mostly they are working through different tools. So we should make them more accountable for that, as Sir rightly pointed out. Mr. Sam, please, over to you.
Thank you. I had some very interesting points were made. In particular, and there are some ladies. I think some very enlightening discussion on a very important subject.
I think first of all, we have to look at our governance model. Because that is the chief of all problems, and possibly the root of all problems, I have to say that. We don't have any specialists at all. We have generalists. One day somebody is a commissioner for Pindi, the next day he's appointed as chairman Sugia. You know, he's supposed to run a big city with all the sort of, I think the person has no education of sort of, city planning or sort of, any of the subjects that the city functioning needs. And that is why you see, it has been mentioned by the lady there's one plant, the water filtration plant for the whole of Islamabad is in an abysmal condition. And I'm not surprised. That is the case with most of our, not just our institutions, but also the assets, these type of national assets that we own. I remember as a child, when I was being brought up in Lahore, in Gulbarga, we used to see things working, like the water systems work. There used to be people from the Lahore Corporation who would clean the roads. In fact, we've gone down from the 70s, 80s to 90s. Now, the systems don't work. In Islamabad, probably most of you would be aware. And that is the case with, I know that, like most of my friends, they don't rely upon the water services from the CDA or any government institution. They all have their own boring. In my house, I have a boring, then we have a filtration plant on the top of the roof. So we are actually, all those functions with the state, which the city departments should be performing. People are doing them themselves. The developments here, for instance, Banigala or others, the state literally was not just oblivious of what was going on, but they were totally not involved. And the type of development that has taken place in all these cases, I mean, one goes there and you just literally shudder at what you see there. The roads are zigzag. Whoever has, I don't know what type of sewage system is there. Whenever there's some rain there, it's literally like the whole area becomes inaccessible. But okay, that is one. I think if we don't create specializations, if we don't bring in the experts in these departments who could run, because meritocracy is the key. If you don't bring the right person for the right job, nothing is going to change in this country, first of all. Now, let me come to the financing part of it. Again, I think you've made a very important point. The 9.7 trillion of debt servicing a year. So that is more than the revenues that we that we gather through tax collection and everything for a year. So that is the state of our, how messed up our system is. So that, what does that imply? That suggests that the government, the state is in no position to come up with the resources required for sort of, for water and sanitation and hygiene. And that too at a juncture where Pakistan is already a water short country. I mean, we are projected to become a water scarce country in the coming years. And we have a population of 250 million. Now, this is a disaster of climatic, proportions, unfortunately, which is in the making. And the population explosion that we are facing, which will actually put additional burden. And we are one of the highest in the world even now. When all around us, we are in South Asia, which is one of the poorest regions in the world. And even in South Asia, one of the poorest regions of the world, at the bottom in terms of economic indicators, in terms of human development indicators, in terms of, unfortunately, our governance as well. Now, we don't have the resource. But in terms of the international resources available, let me tell you something. They are much more limited than we think. I have represented Pakistan in UNFCCC for 4.5 years as a master's regime. I was part of the very first summit, the Earth Summit, the Rio Summit in 1992. And since then, I've been part of so many different summits. I was, as foreign secretary, I went to the COP27, where we made a big deal out of, the loss and damage fund which was created there and sort of, but how much money has been collected in loss and damage fund? $a few $100 million. And that has to be distributed for, to all the countries in the world. I mean, the whole, in fact, I have a friend, I won't name him,
who's probably one of the preeminent climate experts in Pakistan, he's worked with the United Nations system. And he told me, sir, the whole circus of this climate financing in the world is just $1 billion. And the whole world is vying for that. So if we are thinking that we will get so many international, all this DCF, for example, I was once a part of the deliberations in UNFCCC, and they were talking about $100 billion of DCF, at that time, we're talking about 2018, 19. But when you delved into the details of that, you found out that all that money was basically repurposed money which had already been allocated for different things. And then later on lumped together as DCF. There was no new resources there. It was all resources which had been allocated already, but it was just being literally retagged. So the fact is, number one, we cannot really rely upon a big trickle of international resources, or we have to generate resources primarily on our own. That is the first point that we have to understand. Now, when we say we have to generate resources on our own, like I said already, the state is in no condition in terms of resources, in terms of competence, in terms of specialization, its capacity. It is in no condition to bear that responsibility. So we have to come up with new mechanisms. People have talked here about public-private partnership. It's a great concept, PPP. But the problem is that in Pakistan, again, we have implemented it. Whenever we have implemented it, mostly it has been implemented in a very shoddy manner. And it has not produced the results that you wanted. So if we want to, I think what we need to do is, of course, privatization would be very important, because in Pakistan, I think personally, the state is so incompetent that it should shrink the sphere of its responsibility. That would be the best thing for the country. The more and more functions should go out of the state. The less government would be better for Pakistan, because our government, and I'm part of that. Saying that while I've been part of the governance for so many decades. That would be, we have to find new mechanisms. Probably we have to see where things can be privatized, because we know already that the private societies, they're doing a much better job than the government, like all these DHAs, all these barrier societies and other societies. They're doing a much better job of providing the infrastructure, including of wash or all the other infrastructure, sometimes electricity and everything, better than the state. A lot of our industry, you see that, for instance, the government once again, we did a disastrous job of providing electricity to our people. You're paying so much billions of dollars in capacity payment. The electricity costs have risen so much, and still you have load shedding in Islamabad and a lot of other places. So what have people done? People have switched because of this micro solar. Everybody that I know, and probably you will know, is switching to producing their own electricity through those solar panels. And you know what is happening now? The industry is shifting as well. A lot of my industrialist friends, whoever I ask, they are shifting to producing their own micro solar. And the cost is much, much lower than what the government is providing. I think in similar ways, we have to move to a model where a lot of these functions are privatized. And the government just becomes a regulator, because that has to be the model. Private public sector, this private public partnership model could be a good model, but again, the government participation there has to be minimal. It has to be more private sector. The third thing is the new mechanisms that are emerging for raising finance. People have talked here about the carbon credits, for example, climate bonds, for example. Now we have to, I think, once again, we have to, our private sector has to become they have to dynamize, they have to start thinking more about these type of mechanisms. But again, the government won't be able to do that. And then again, I think awareness is very important, because for all these things, for instance, the problems of, where most of our water is wasted, it's actually not wasted in the cities. It's agriculture, which takes the bulk of our water resource. What type of agriculture do we have? Do we have drip irrigation? The whole world is doing drip irrigation, which is much more efficient, which is a much Because you know what is agriculture? In scientific terms, agriculture is conversion of water into these products that we. But we are a water short country. And yet our agriculture does not have drip irrigation. We are wasting like 70-80% of the water that goes to our agriculture. And the vast majority of our water is used by the agriculture sector. So we need to change that. We need to incentivize the farmers, the agriculture sector, so they switch to drip irrigation. I'm not going to dilate upon these because I know everybody needs to speak here. I'll stop here. But I think there is a great deal of need to have a fresh perspective, to have fresh ideas, because these set pattern structures that we have, including the state structures or the models that we talk about, they are not going to serve us very well because they have not served us in the past and they cannot serve us now or in the future. We need to think out of the box. We need solutions which are based primarily on the people themselves, because you cannot really rely or depend on the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Some really nice points and pointers for further discussion. I'm deliberately restraining myself to be part of, because I have to save the time and I have to hear other speakers. After.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, STPI and WaterAid. Being such August house, and I think it's a great learning for the last 1.5 hours. Thank you very much. I think I would like to make a few points. Before that, I would like to appreciate the learning that we have from this crafting of WaterAid and STPI initiative on water. And that is very important learning for all the sectors, which is that whenever we propose any policy or any change, we also propose the funding sources to implement that initiative. I think that is a lot of focus in today's deliberations. So I think that's very important, great learning for all of us. Secondly, if we look at all the evaluations done by various entities, be it government, donors, universities, from 2008 earthquake to 2022 floods. Two things are common in all of them. One, the lack of capacity at local level to respond. It's coming out continuously. Second thing, which is also coming out continuously, is the lack of coordination among the various entities. I think a lot goes here about the mindset. Because if we learn from something, we improve it next time. If we do not learn from that thing and we do not implement it, continues like this one. So I think it's very, very important that somehow, like STPI and WaterAid has included this financing component in this initiative. Before this has started, I think something of behavioral change and mindset change should also be included, and Resilient Future would love to work with STPI and WaterAid on this. This is very important because once I was studying and conducting a study on value chain, I realized that the most important element of value chain is to reduce the cost of production of any product. Here I would like to say that whatever budget is coming towards the wash or health or water and hygiene and sanitation, how much of that is properly used and how much of that is misused. So I think saving money from that would be very, very important, and we can find ways for that. Secondly, Ms. Myra has reminded us the pollution created by companies but not paying. As we know that 2018 water policy, national water policy, it includes a provision of polluters pay, and it is not being implemented. So I think that's why we should also try to advocate for the implementation of polluters pay related policies so that they are made accountable. Thirdly, I would like to say that it's very important, like many others have said, to develop private and public partnership. But I would like to bring here university and research institutions, like we have heard a lot of innovative technologies and process being developed around the globe. So I think that coordination can help to reduce the cost. And if we bring in the business element and return to business investment, I think that would also help us to generate more fund for this initiative. I would like to stop here and then we'll have later.
Thank you. Engineer Aslan sir.
Thank you so much to the SDPI and giving us the opportunity to speak on this important topic. I will speak first on the sustainable wash, the development of sustainable wash systems. Like for any sustainable development, you need to prioritize it. So did we prioritize it at the national level? So first of all, we need to prioritize it at national level and put it on an emergency, like national emergency. So after that, we be able to make mechanism for development, for operational maintenance, like there is a lot of governance issues in our systems which should be addressed. So once you make it prior and make it on top of the list of priorities, then there would be a chance of like making the mechanism of different mechanisms, like including the wash in syllabus. Yeah, not yet in Pakistan. Like for example, community engagement in the water system development. There is no community engagement because the communities are the ones who can better run the systems, develop the systems, and operate and maintain the systems because they are using that. So who will use the system? He will definitely best taking of their system. So that is another thing. And then the localized solutions, local systems, low cost systems. So that is also another key for sustainable development. And when it's come to and the third point is the accurate data. We don't have at Pakistan level and data and then accuracy of the data. Like for the wash, how much water per year or per day are being wasted? What are the usage of water in Pakistan? How much water is used by the industry, the car wash, the hotels, all these things. And it comes to the sustainable financing mechanism after the sustainable development. So we need to focus like who is using the water. Or who is using wash, like who is contaminating the wash system or at a groundwater table are rivers through their sanitation systems, from their systems like car wash is using water, they are wasting water, they are even contaminated because they are contaminants in their water. So, and then the industry, like if you see the tourism industry, if you see other big industries like steel industries or brick industries, they are using a lot of water and contaminating systems even to their sanitation, to their wash, and there is no hygiene mechanisms in these industries. So first we have to focus on the sustainable development, and after that, because there is no awareness in this, we are not sensitized at all. Like if I'm here, if we see in the Islamabad, because we are living here and there the people, they are more educated than the other part of the country, people living here. So if you see here, they are using underground water for their car wash, for their home wash, for their street wash. And there is no system to bring the rainwater or at least treat that wastewater and get it back to the ground. So that there is no system available at our local level, at our community level, government level. So first of all, we have to desensitize on the wash, and we recognize that yes, wash is need, and this is very huge need, and we are taking it. So first there, and after that the mechanism, like if someone is using a resource, he should pay back for that resource. And if he's making waste of things, he should treat that waste, and that should be converted into the energies. So these are what I wanted to make points here and contribute to this.
Thank you. The answer.
Lot of good points have been made. I just wanted to start off with, we're talking about climate finance is also a big part. And Pakistan unfortunately is relied on international climate finance. And just wanted to make one point, since Trump has withdrawn from Paris Agreement once again. This is going to throw a spanner in all the things that all over the world, especially for developing countries. So we need to be mindful of that. Because I believe in the next 4 years, the BOP system won't be working properly, because there's a lot of apprehensions and what's going to happen, because United States is a major partner. And if it's not there, a lot of things are going to change. And I believe many countries will also follow suit, because many countries are now looking inwards than looking at a globalized world, which we had seen before. So there's going to be trouble for Pakistan, so we need to come up for better solutions to climate finance and look inside. Another point I just wanted to make was that at the start of the dialogue, there was a mention which organization is important. There's a lot of mention of where's Ministry of Climate Change. We don't have a Minister of Climate Change. We have an advisor. That shows the priority which we have for the Ministry of Climate Change. And if you go there, you don't see anything working or anything happening. There's just a small office, and they're visiting here and there, but not much work is done there. So I believe there's one institution we can look at, that is NDMA. NDMA, I believe, should be given the priority. The NDMA becomes active when there's a disaster, but NDMA has the resources. It's led by the general, and we know where the resources and where the coordination lies in this country. Armed forces have the major resources and major coordination all over the country. So NDMA, I believe, should be used in this regard instead of Ministry of Climate Change. They can be made, and they have also provincial PDMs. And they have good coordination with the civil departments. So I believe NDMA should be given the responsibility, just not when a disaster happens, but prevention of disaster mitigation, and they can be the organization which can be used. And the last thing we are saying about like water mismanagement and fines and everything, but we don't have a proper legal system. Who is going to take those fines? If you go to some place, probably people are going to pay fines from lower middle class, but if you go to some rich society in F7 and F6, they're going to say, Bharatiyans. So, there's a big issue. So legal implementation and to implement these policies and reduce water mismanagement, the country, we need to have proper legal system. There should be fines, but they need to be taken care of. Like if someone, there should be equality for all, not that for lower areas, lower middle income areas. And the rich waste more water than the lower income people, because they don't have that, especially in big cities like Karachi and Lahore, people don't get water supplies for a long time. And the people living in rich this also they get, and they waste the most water. So we need to look at that area. Last point that I just want to make is, there's a lot of talk about Pakistan as a water scarce country. Pakistan, I believe, is not a water scarce country. We are a water inefficient country. We waste a lot of water. There was talk about drip irrigation being used in agriculture. The problem, we have had events at our institute about this. The problem with drip irrigation was there was some model villages where drip irrigation was introduced. There were machines brought in from China. They worked for 1 year, and then the farmer, because some of the machines broke down, they didn't have the parts. So you have to develop industries without drip irrigation. It's a very good point having these technologies. But you need to develop local industries with it. If they don't find the parts, they will go back to the old system. Because our farmers are unskilled in that sense, and they're not aware. So they're going to go back to the thing they know, because they say we can't find a part, we can't wait to get the part from China. So we need to develop these industries along with the technology which we want to bring in. These are just few points as well.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Faisal साहब आप खासतौर पे जो पॉइंट है प्राइसिंग का, मेरे ख्याल उस पे अगर आप फोकस रखें ताकि वो दोबारा से
Thank you so much. I will be precise about financing. Currently, we talk about in your policy brief that financing is coming from the government or financing is coming from some donor sources. Financing is low. It's much lower than the required finance. And if you exclude the 2022 financing, this rate may not be 152%. So from where financing can come, I always propose the economic water pricing in the country. So because currently water is not volumetric based pricing or consumption is not estimated, so we must introduce metering for household or for agriculture both. First thing is that in this way we can know how much water is consumed in each sector, and then we can introduce a pricing on water price. We have also estimated the size of the market for agriculture, because agriculture is the major consumer. It's consuming 90% of our water, and currently the rate in agriculture are flat rate. 25 एकड़ वाला भी वही पे कर रहा है, 2 एकड़ वाला भी 50 एकड़ वाला भी flat rate, and total potential of that flat rate water charges or awareness system is just 32 billion. And currently the water collection charges in the province Punjab is just 1.49 billion. Total potential of awareness is 32 billion. If we charge the economic prices, current market prices that the water they are extracting from the ground, or without including any scarcity rent to that price, the total value of the surface water that is currently 92 million acre feet is around 800 to 1100 billion. So there is a big potential if you introduce economic water pricing in agriculture. On current market rate, जो भी the groundwater को expect करके pay कर रहे हैं, तो आप 800 से 1100 बिलियन जो है एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं. इसमें और फैक्टर्स जब शामिल करेंगे तो if you include them, this will be much bigger, and that finance can be spent on a number of options we have discussed. That finance can help to invest government in all other areas. क्योंकि फाइनेंस आपको चाहिए हर जगह पे, जो भी काम आपने करना फाइनेंस चाहिए, लेकिन फाइनेंस कहाँ से आएगा? इट विल नॉट कम अगर जब तक अभी PCRWR ने बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस दिए कि there are countries that pricing on volumetric or consumption based pricing, और वहाँ से वो फाइनेंस ले रहे हैं, लेकिन उन्होंने अभी तक पाकिस्तान की मार्केट को एस्टिमेट नहीं करके बताया कि हमारा कितना वाटर कंज्यूम हो रहा है, उसकी टोटल पोटेंशियल कितना है, ये फाइनेंस कैसे जो है इसको हेल्प कर सकता है. Although this idea is very good कि यहाँ से बहुत ज़्यादा पोटेंशियल आ सकता है, but this idea is not politically acceptable for agriculture sector right now, because the government is already out of meat market and they don't want to invite foreigners to protest against the in case of the economic water pricing in this case. But we see there is no responsible consumption of water, and this responsible consumption of water will not happen without price. जब तक आपके ऊपर price नहीं होगी, आपको नहीं पता कि आप उसके लिए क्या पे करने जा रहे हैं. हमने बहुत सारी behavioral campaigns चला के देखी हैं. We highlight the issue in media and many other things we talk, but it never works. So my point is that it will only work if the economic water pricing, or if water pricing based on the value of the water is introduced. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, I will just discuss about the risk financing. Actually, we are working on the disaster risk financing approach in Pakistan. Since Start Network is working on the, basically we are focusing on the technological advancements. How the technological advancement contribute in disaster management, and I'm just highlighting the points. But what kind of actually benefits we can get to climate resilient watch from technology. So currently, basically we are actually working on the basically critical infrastructures actually registry, which can provide us, for example, the existing, wash facilities. We are working on all critical infrastructures, but wash facilities or wash services are also part of it. So we are looking, if, for example, using the technology, like we have models actually, basically the flood models, heat wave models, and drought models, and that model is basically, we have put some, assessments like from MHVIS, multi-hazard vulnerability assessments have been conducted by the National Disaster Management Authorities, and we have some figures of if there is, for example, a flood of certain levels, which kinds of our wash facility will be destroyed, and what would be cost of those facilities if we can bring them into, for example, functional positions. So in this regards, of course, many of our colleagues discuss regarding the public-private partnerships. One thing, which we are focusing actually, maybe, this forum can focus is the transfer of this. The burden, the financial burden from the short governments, we can focus on the risk transfers, like, for example, the involvement of insurance companies in vast sectors. This is one of the points which I would like to highlight. How the insurance companies can contribute in this climate resilient wash sector. So this was actually my point. Thank you very much.
Dr. Thank you for having my thoughtfulness. I think the diversity of the views we have taken, economic eyes, financial eyes coming from your side. We have the engagement of the end of the day, how we have to navigate. So sustainability, the climate resilience, I want to give the perspective from three strands. My first trend is something is bigger than education today. We are still coming with the education. In my previous capacity as a dean, as a professor, when I see what's happening around the world, education that is being taken over by the visualization. I think we have to come with the visualization. Tax clinics, sustainability clinics, literacy clinics, they are now start working in the society. So if we have to engage this integrative approach where we have to take on board that we have to develop this eco-conscious behavior, adaptability, reform. So I think it's not possible without giving the visualization to the people. I think we have to integrate, you name it differently, you call it a public-private partnership, you have to bring who is responsible end of the day on the part of the regulations. If you are not giving the regulations, so it would remain a myth, not a reality. So now how we have to move towards a bit towards a reality. I think now I have to give a second strand. Governance is responsible. Lehman Brothers, one of the leading financial bank was a failure. Why it failed? Since they don't have a diversity, they don't have a system board. So that we have the realization of the diversity, we need to have the female representation of the governance. I think it's a public, private, corporate, your governance should have the representation of the sustainability. Make it the part of the regulation, sustainability reporting. It's not happening in my country still. When I speak as the voice of the global investment forums, the chairman from the SECP, sir, don't please speak on the side of a taxonomy. Sir, why shouldn't we hide the facts to the public? So we have to bring a taxonomy on the part of the regulations, taxonomy on the part of the what are the legitimate and illegitimate transactions, livelihoods, starting from that point of view towards the custodian of the corporations. If the taxonomy is there, you can bring a local taxonomy, you can bring a taxonomy for a metropolitan city, you have to bring a planning, and end of the day, this taxonomy that is with the eye of the regulator. That we are still living with the SDGs, we are living about the impact investments, but they are qualitative measures. The world has adapted taxonomy that is coming with the sustainable accounting standard boards. If you have to in place, like the financial audits are happening, so you have to bring the social audits, you have to bring the risk audits. So I think this is how we have to integrate this, the perspective that has become a bit not a reality. Okay, now, wearing my cap as the professor of finance, Pakistan's capital market today, in particular Pakistan Stock Exchange, how many number of registered participants that we have? 3,15,000 registered participants, and it's a huge populous economy that we have. I never went to India, one stock exchange of India, they have 115 million registered participants. I think something is going wrong. Why I said we need to re-navigate ourselves, it's a revisualization, it's a reorientation. We have to develop the trust, we have to bring our common man, the man sitting with a pension, the man sitting with a retirement plan. You have to start thinking about how you have to capitalize your capital markets. Okay, now, we speak in climate finance, financial inclusion, you speak high about the impact investment, you speak high about even the crowdfunding. Whatever is the channel, if you are coming with a thought that we have a symposium, then we are coming with a thought forums, and adaptation is lacking. So I think The reason behind is a taxonomy. There were three taxonomies. You have social taxonomy, financial taxonomy, and the regulations taxonomy. And what are the implementation? Might be possible. Coming with the past 5 years, we just have the understanding that has been implemented with the 5%. But your path is very clear. So I think it's more like a design thinking. So if you have to bring a turnaround, so this turnaround is not possible with quantitative measures. You have to keep a balance of the social justice, and you have to bring a social, you have to bring the eye of the regulations. So I think, sir, a strong recommendation from my point of view, being the character as the advisor to the government and being the part of the professor of finance, integration of this WASH as a subject matter. That should be the part of your schooling, education, universities. And end of the day, regulator is sitting with the blank eyes. Please give a taxonomy and visualization. Your sustainability clinics, they should be in the society. I represent a society. We got naval anchorage. I don't have a WASH clinic. If a tax clinic, WASH clinic, that is having this integration in my society, I think at least we can have some disciplinary thoughts. We have to bring these disclosures. So this is disclosure is not coming with the eye that I am going to have a self-disclosure. Nobody would give you a self-disclosure. You have to make it mandatory. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bilal, आपने बात करनी क्योंकि आप मेरे ख्याल रह गए Bilal को दे दे anybody else that I will
Thank you, Shafkat sir.
हमारा फॉर्म is वो कैसे
Thank you, Deep. I would like to, I think all of our colleagues have mentioned many things, and it would not be that much justified that I would suggest a novel thing here. I think for me, I would suggest that accountability is very important, and we should start with ourselves when it comes to WASH accountability, how much we are wasting water by ourselves. Then we can say that we can contribute to something at national and provincial level. So I think the people here, we should start with ourselves, and that would came with something very big, So impact start from ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You will
Thank you very much. I will take a very short time. Most of the points already covered by colleagues. Just I will highlight 2-3 points. I think Dr. Sir highlighted very rightly what I consider is the awareness, or maybe you can say education. Like if we see our generation, it's how it's moving on. So we consider ourselves, we see that how much we are teaching them about environment. Like if we are telling them, if for example, E for power, why not E for environment? So how our syllabus is covering that one? This is very important, really. Even if we are pushing towards again and again and again. I do remember in 80s when I was one of the disaster when we were responding that. At that time it was Watson, WATSAM Watson. Now it has become WASH. At that time, even it was only Watson being providing clean drinking water and just make some drainage or like that. Slowly we start discussing WASH, and then we even one of the study, I was part of that study, and we visited one by one all the warehouses of PDMAs and NDMAs, and we found surprisingly nothing was addressed to the contents of the females in their hygienics. It was surprising for us. So again, discussion is a separate part. How we are implementing these, how we are taking it seriously in our policies, in all these things. This is for me, this is very important. Public-private partnership is, yes, exactly. I think this can be a breakthrough if we enhance this
with the different modalities. But one another thing, I think, yeah, you highlighted this, that the first time in climate insurance, this can be a helpful tool. Other countries are adopting this. For example, if climate is affecting us because of shortfall of rain or even because of the flooding or the, so how you will cover us, how you will support us. Other countries are adopting this, but in Pakistan it would be the new subject. But yes, climate insurance can be a part insurance companies can make themselves. And the another thing is that we are the old people of 80s, and then there was a series of PSMs, public service messages, that was aired by media, by like this was mandatory for the companies at that time. We were listening, yeah. I remember, like even sometimes we were laughing at that. Sadak ko kaise paar karna hai, how to cross the road, how to help someone, how to put some garden. We are the PSMs. Why we are not discussing these? Why these channels or the media war is going on and they are earning billion? Why they are not forced to put their some of the portion of the time at the prime time, that for example a few seconds to honor these PSMs regarding environment, regarding raising the education among us. Like we are silent on that. What role we are playing in that? The society at least. So everyone take the role. Everyone. This is not the role of only NGO, the government, or then if we are fighting with the climate, environment, and these all issues, then definitely everyone has to take the role. Every single individual is important. From even it's not the difference of age, it's not the difference of old, young, boy or girl, or everyone has to take the role. This is very good.
Thank you.
My name is Tahir Insa. I'm a working journalist. I had a privilege to see all this area of the earthquake in 2005, along with IRA, the Lieutenant General Nadeem, and $5 billion were given to Pakistan because we were fighting a war from West at that time. 1.2 billion was asked and 5 billion was given. And all was spent on rural reconstruction and livelihood and things. Some amount was spent on wash, very meager amount. Why it is not? I think it is on purpose because it doesn't. It's not suitable for the policymakers. Last year, Nobel Prize for Economics was given in the writing of a book. Why nations fail? That means 4 things: extractive economic institutions, weak central governments, unrepresentative political authority at the top, and elite capture as a result. This elite capture takes away, for example, Mohsin Saab was saying that 9 trillion is given in the interest rate. Why a trillion cannot be spent on the wash? Because it doesn't show up. This year, $8 billion would be given to the IPPs as capacity payment. And nobody can touch that because local investors they have a secret sort of a contract with the government. So this is elite capture, and that is what, otherwise there is enough money for what it takes to make a wash facility and bring it on a money. We don't have a walls and the ladies going. These are only damn excuses. So I personally think that the time has come that some sort of punitive measure will have to adopt it. The pull is not working here. Or some sort of punitive measure will directly come from the society. I think the things are moving. I had an opportunity to go to Shanghai with Ambassador George Salim Saab. All the time he built our capacity. He kept on building our capacity on that. Shanghai, we had a cruise in the river that Shanghai is one city. Its GDP is 3.9 trillion US. 3.9 trillion. Bigger than the GDP of India, bigger than Japan, bigger than Germany. 10 times bigger than the GDP of Pakistan, which is $350 billion. 20 years back, it was a rural area and nobody could live there. Nobody would like to live there. Today, the rent of an apartment at the
80th floor, 80 floor is $50,000 per square feet. So it is elite capture in everyone knows. I started covering Ministry of Finance when Ghafoor Mirza was the Deputy Secretary who's made budget. Fiscal space. Only that if you go to the, in the Ministry of Finance, they will talk about the fiscal space. Then where that fiscal space is utilized, it's captured by retail.
Thank you. Thank you. I think was on the.
Okay, so I was just, I was just looking at the number of Shanghai's GDP. It is 5.39 trillion yuan. So in dollar it is 741 billion. Yeah, I just checked it. Okay. All right, because the figure of 3 point some trillion sounds too big to me. So I always do fact checking. All right, so please don't mind. All right. So a very interesting session. I have taken down points from some interesting points from some of the speakers. Not everyone though. So, Madam here initially talked about cost recovery. Then other people also, Dr. Naveed talked about taxonomy. Dr. Faisal talked about water pricing. Ambassador George Salim Saab said, no government is good government. Famous quote from Ronald Reagan and now Mr. Trump's agenda. So it's fine. I mean, you can say whatever. I was looking at, everyone must have seen that Elon was saying there are 1,000 people in America who are receiving Social Security and they have an age of over 200 years. Because they also have the problem of the deaths are not recorded. But that does not mean, even if it is 1%, that means 99% of people are genuine recipients. So, forget about that. All right, the madam from German INGO, she very rightly said, you see, we have to understand, I had already talked about it, that ownership of local community is most important. You talked about tax exemption. I am afraid it is not possible. I don't see it will happen in my lifetime. Very less anyway. And Mr. Ismail talked about villages on hygiene. Again, the same thing. It's an interesting phenomenon. Educating people to take social responsibility, to understand the social responsibility what they have. This is easier said than done. Had it been so simple, then we would not have faced the problem of managing water supply schemes at village level, which we don't, right? So they get abandoned. And Dr. Vandara talks about 250 million out of school children and the vending machines proposes very out of box structure, I must say. Ms. Sumaya talked about government-private partnership, and other people also talked about public-private partnership. Madam, I forgot your name. So I've just noticed hospitality industry, and it is not being held accountable. Definitely, they are not being held accountable. And you talked about CSR. Another speaker also talked about CSR. I like the concept of, especially like the concept of Mr. Sarma left. He talked about sporadic eruption of models, reactive versus proactive. And very true. And another speaker talked about 2005 earthquake and how much money was received and how much money was actually spent on wash. This is political economies. As simple as that. I have done master's in public policy from University of Chicago, and what Dr. Saab said, George Saab said, and what he said was right. It is political economy everywhere, whether it's Pakistan or whether it's United States. And I especially like Aftab Alam Saab's comment about lack of preparedness of local government. Trust me, it is worse than probably what you have said, what he has said. It is worse than that. I was administrator of Municipal Committee Jhang and Municipal Committee Geneva. 99% or 95% of the money we spent towards salaries. And if you ask about the remaining 5%, and you trust me, the vehicles which are used for garbage lifting, garbage collection. They are sort of patrons. And at many of places, the local mohalla councils, the ward councils, the small community, municipal committees, they are the people who are doing this job. Our local government system has actually collapsed. Okay. And Ahmed Naeem Saab talked about NDMA. Well, I can't comment. He himself said that who has the influence, whoever has the influence should be on board, should be given the responsibility. The lesser, the better, I say. Dr. Faisal Saab also said about water pricing. So, all in all, I see everybody agrees that there is the issue of tragedy of commons. So, if you don't hold people responsible, what will happen? I was reading a comment a couple of months back that in good old days, people would keep their gas burner open whole night or whole day just to save the price of a matchstick because gas was free then. So if gas is free, so why switch it off, right? And honestly speaking, I'll give you an example of water pricing and water conservation. In Karachi, I live in Creek Vista, and there water is metered, and also in Imar, water is metered. So it is as per the utilization. So some people have bill of 50,000, 40,000 per month in flats, and they are all flats. My wife is very careful, so she has never let it exceed over 20,000. Okay. And they are all family sizes are more or less same. But the tragedy of common thing, I know one of the CEOs of a DFI, so he was sitting with me and he is living in Imar. And I just asked him that what is your water bill in Imar? And you know what was his reply? He said, I don't know and I don't care because my company pays. This is the reality. This is the matchstick reality. That if I am not paying, so I don't mind if the tap is running. But if I am paying from my pocket, then I have to do it. You see, this is the tragedy of commons. All right. Thank you very much. Enjoyed that discussion.
Thank you, Mohsen Saab, for your even the summarizing the comments of others. Now I will request my colleague Khurram Hassan, Manager Program Quality and Partnership Update for contributing. By the way, we are very much in time.
Thank you, Dr. As we conclude our policy dialogue on sustainable financing mechanism for climate resilient wash, on behalf of WaterAid Pakistan, I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for your time, energy, and dedication on this important discussion. The exchange has been both enlightening and thought-provoking, and I truly appreciate the valuable insights and contributions throughout the dialogue. A key takeaway from today's dialogue is the significant funding gap we talked about for the climate resilient wash infrastructure. We talked about private sector, the scarcity of resources from the international and international donors. But I believe we can't discount the potential of the communities. I can share our experience, WaterAid experience. We did a study with World Bank on tariff collection with a very reputable research institute. And in the rural communities, the study results were like 60% of the communities were willing to pay for the wash services. So after that, we are still doing a project with the government of Punjab. There's an body PRMSC with the funding of World Bank. In that, Water Aid is working with the communities on the demand creation of the tariff. And we have designed a very innovative and contextualized campaign, behavioral change, and for the behavioral change. The results till date are very encouraging because for the infrastructure part, the Punjab government with the support of World Bank is working. So the communities have applied for the connections for the wash services. So they are like, the project is being implemented in 16 districts, and so far the results are very encouraging. Discussions of today, I believe, are like very much aligned with the approach of Water Aid Pakistan and with the mandate what we are doing in Pakistan. We are creating models like Dr. Saiba shared. We have created zero liquid discharge model, climate resilient wash models. And now this year, we will be like capturing the evidence for its effectiveness and efficiency, and will be sharing with the concerned stakeholders for replication and scale up. Similarly, during the discussion, we do talk about the accountability mechanism for wash services. With overlapping mandates of various federal and provincial departments, there is a dire need of institutional, financial, social accountability. For that, we are engaged with the relevant departments for providing like evidences and creating policy frameworks for accountability. Similarly, one more aspect that I want to highlight is about the capacity building of the relevant departments. There's a dire need to build institutional and technical capacity at the local level for the effective implementation of these climate resilient wash models. I know while the path forward is undoubtedly challenging, the discussions today have shown that solutions are within our reach. So once again, I thank you all for your invaluable contributions. Let's carry this momentum from today's dialogue into meaningful, lasting actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Guru. Now we conclude here, and lunch is served upstairs. So we will have a group formal chat. Lunch. The group for. Okay. Okay. Group.